I was actually knocked out about maybe three wrestling podcasts today in 5 hours. The old school wrestling podcast, I dipped my fingers in that. They had one episode talking about I Like to Hurt People, talking about that movie. The other one was they're talking about Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack versus the Outlaws from like WrestleMania and the night after WrestleMania in Albany. That's actually very good lead up in wrestling because the Outlaws were really this they're only together team, you know, B.G. James, Armstrong, whoever, part of the Armstrong clan, you know, kind of job law. His matches, you know, was the roadie with Jeff Jarrett back in the day. You know, Billy Gunn was just coming off Smoking Guns, and you know, this is like literally the perfect storm of tag teams. And you know, of course, in the first month and a half, they got the belts from Legion of Doom. I can still remember the Monday Night Raw. Actually, still remember. It was like November 13th or whatever of '97. Because November '97 they won the belts. They had a little thing with LOD. Where they basically took out the old LOD, the Road Warriors, whatever you want to call them. You know, putting Hawk through a table, shaving one a horn. You know, that little weird horn thing, Mohawk was. And that was on the Monday Night Raw, like the last Monday Night Raw in 1997. Then, of course, LOD came back with Sonny and at Mania won the Battle Royal. But then, you know, this little quasi proxy war with Cactus Mick Foley started around that time. You know, brought in Terry Funk. You know, it was a kind of amazing point in history watching Monday Night Raw because they talked about when Foley was on Raw and they were talking about the three faces of Foley. And that was actually quite cool because, yeah, as they mentioned, you know, showing shit from Japan, ECW, which, by the way, they put out WWF magazine. Had to be June. It had to be June or July of '98. They put out an awesome spread of Cactus, like some photo things from Japan, and there was this great poster of one of the images from the famous King of the Deathmatch 1995 posters in it. This is really one of my favorite magazines ever, wrestling magazines ever. But of course, you know, Terry Funk came in. They did a little feud with the Outlaws at Mania with the dumpster. By the way, I still kind of remember watching that on being fucking 11 years old and watching that in my living room in an apartment near St. Louis. And it's one of those things you don't forget watching. And another WWF pay-per-view they did was the SummerSlam Highway to Hell theme episode where, you know, just talk about SummerSlam, just kind of reviewed that. I kind of still remember some of the lead up to SummerSlam. One thing I kind of remember, the lead up to SummerSlam '98 was the big feud between DX and the Nation of Domination, and like the week before, like the final episode before the wrap-up show before the pay-per-view, it was this big gang fight of Nation of Domination and DX, and it was this big feud, big street fight. I remember Triple H bleeding. There was some kind of ladder, and kind of went off Monday Night or Monday Night Raw's or but that'd be kind of interesting. What if they did a War Games style match? It would have had to been DX versus Nation that year. They would have done WWF version of of War Games style match. But actually, I want to do a list of what if a War Games setup, because kind of think of it, let's go to 1996, okay, WCW. If the NWO didn't do, if they pop, if, say, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash never left WWF that year, it would never have been WCW versus NWO. It would have been Horseman versus the Dungeon of Doom in the War Games match. Something to think about right there. But Old School Wrestling Podcast, it's a good, one of the good podcasts, wrestling podcasts out there. Stuff from Jericho, JR, and Steve Austin. They all got that fucking Podcast One bullshit. Podcast One is probably the shittiest podcasting company out there, in my opinion, because it's really fucking annoying. Because I kind of like the idea of, get all your advertisements out first. All right, then you can do your little monologue, and boom, you can get straight into your interview. But if you have to throw in commercials and random spots, you know how that really takes me out as a listener, and I don't fucking like it. I'm assuming a lot of other people don't like it, but really I think that's a smart way if you just do, all your advertisement at first. That's the first 10 minutes. Then you can do your monologue. That's another 10. So you got your 20 minutes. Do an hour of interview, hour 10. That's good. 90. That's in total a good 90-minute show. If you had to sprinkle in commercials, you know how that really takes out the listener. If I had to listen, Sting saying, oh man, that was a great run we were doing. Pat Calsa's every week, then suddenly we just cut off, go, when I use my facial cream to cover up my hideous scar, I use Waxall Rust. That's right, Waxall Rust. I use Waxall Rust. If you order it now and use the program Van Barbecue, you get 5 cents off your first purchase. Make sure you use facial cream barbecue. And tell you, go out, JR sent you. Also, that's another thing. Saying JR is the best wrestling commentator ever. That's really fucking saying something, because Gordon Soley is the fucking voice of Godfather of professional wrestling, announcing, with that cigarette smoke, Lance Russell did a lot of Memphis stuff. Such a fucking great voice he had. Also, Joey Styles, another great commentator, but JR, he has good one-liners. It's kind of like, I don't know, a comedian, kind of like some backwoods comedian, you know. It's like, it's kind of like Larry Cable Guy. You know, Larry Cable Guy has a reputation of being, you know, a funny guy, but he just has the one-liner, you know. He has a working get her done. And apparently he makes $50 million a year. I don't know. Anywho, yeah, it's about 20 minutes of me rambling like a fucking madman. Oh, when also, I tried to buy the WWE Network yesterday, and apparently they didn't want to take my debit card. Not because didn't have any money in my account. Apparently they don't take gift cards. Alright. Also, another thing. Can we, one more thing before I get out? Can we stop kissing The Rock's ass? Seriously. The Rock had a good 3 years. 3 years in wrestling. He had a good 3 years in wrestling. Between 97 and 2001. That was The Rock's primo years. Everything else, bullshit. So, bro, stop with this Rock bullshit. And sick of his fucking movies. Oh, The Rock is going to be Hercules. He's going to be fucking Zeus. Really? Can he be a better actor? God, his movies just fucking suck, man. He's doing like 10 a year. He was better off being in wrestling for a couple of more years. Then quit being in wrestling. And then he can do his little talkie movies. Or you can end up like Steve Austin and just rambles on a fucking podcast for an hour and a half, 4 hours a week. Also, that's another thing. Can we quit kissing Steve Austin's ass? He was a tremendous athlete, wrestler in the early 90s. Great athlete. You know, honestly, this, you know, way Steve Austin's podcast, but by the way, by podcast one, it's just, it sounds like he's just rambling, incoherent, like muttering. It's basically like the voice in my head. Yeah. So enough with Steve Austin. Enough with The Rock. You know, I've been a wrestling fan over 18 years. Let's face it, I'm a WCW guy. I'm an ECW guy. You know, WWE, WF. You know, I was always sick of fiddle. The WCW. WCW was the shit. Well, then again, some people think that it was shit, but WCW had something special. Something special that you can't make again now. WCW rolled. WWF can't eat my balls. Anywho, I'm enough talking. I've talked enough.